Good evening and welcome into another summer break edition of the R&R Sports Report. I'm your host as always, Randy Isbell, and with me, I guess to my left, to my right, I don't know how the screen works anymore. I'm so confused now that we're back at home, but Robert Hagan. Robert, how's it going today?
I was just thinking, we're so used to saying good evening Warriors, and it's like,
Well, most of them are home now.
most of them are home. Some of them are still working in the office, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some of them getting ready, putting in some extra hours. I don't know, man. It's my favorite time of year. When we hit Memorial Day, I am so jacked. I'm ready for Memorial Day.
The NAIA World Series starting this Friday. We will get all into that. Of course, we got to bring up the week of June 14th. We still haven't nailed down the exact time and date, but Robert and I going 2-on-1 with the legendary Kai Fong in what will be a complete bloodbath on the tennis court. The fact that Kai emailed me saying that he is starting his training for us just makes me so scared beyond words.
Yeah, our mutual friend Brian Bremley, he's like, I will stream it. I'll be the guy there running time.
Absolutely.
We just got to find out if Kai wants to bring in any fans to really show how bad he's going to humiliate us.
It's going to be rough. It's going to be just hilarious. So we'll talk about more of that. Again, the NAIA World Series on Friday. Lots of MLB news. The Aaron Rodgers stuff just will not stop. I've been sick of it for a month, and it just continues going on. We have lots of basketball news to get to on the high school level. Playoffs are going on in NBA.
And how about the old man? The old man winning this weekend. Oh,
yeah.
Phil Mickelson.
We'll talk about Phil Mickelson. The first race at the Circuit of the Americas was an interesting race, and we'll talk about that as well. But first off, we are bringing in a very special guest. She is kind of the third member of the R&R Sports Report.
I would list her as a third member as much as we feel.
How we get every single guest from LC is I bug her in an email on Monday or Tuesday, and she has been fantastic. She's also helped me out getting on some PA work and some play-by-play work, and she's going to be sick of me in the next 3 or 4 years, but for now, she's putting up with me, and that is the award-winning sports information director, Alicia Alexander, and I'll bring her in right now. Alicia, how are you today?
I don't really know how to answer that question. It's series week.
Well, it's not only series week, but let's just talk about how crazy this year has been. There were points this year where every single sport was going on at the exact same time, and you being in charge of all of them and getting that information out and getting everybody coordinated. How much sleep have you gotten since December?
There have been a lot of nights waking up in the middle of the night, yelling out basketball scores, worried about the World Series program. I can't tell you how many times my fiance has woken up in the morning being like, you talked to me about volleyball stats last night. It's been,
Alicia does everything. I'll be doing PA stuff, and again, thank you for allowing me to do that kind of stuff. And during just a baseball game, Alicia's doing 9 different things just for the baseball game, not to mention setting up other things for other sports that are going on at all times. She rarely sits. This is one of the few times we caught her sitting down.
So technically, how many hats do you really wear, Alicia? I know if you looked at your job title with the Warrior program at LC, how many different titles really?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I don't even know how many different things I can do at one time. It's graphics, putting together, different program type things, the live stream, the stats, with baseball, I have the video board, hiring everybody like Randy. I mean, you're one of the examples. I schedule everybody in the press box, and it's even more for basketball and volleyball. A running joke with SIDs is, you'll see a job description, and it'll say live streaming, live stats, writing. That's another one that I do a lot of. And other duties as assigned.
I think we all have that as duties assigned, especially like in my job with the teaching side. It's the same thing as things have grown. So talk a little bit really quick about let's start early years, who you are, where you came from, where you studied, and how did you make your way to LC?
So I am a SoCal girl through and through. I grew up about 40 minutes from Disneyland, played softball my entire life, ran some injury health issues in high school, and ended up doing. I basically was my high school team's SID without knowing what an SID was. I did once the doctor said stop it. I handled our stats. I did pictures. I did our Facebook page, all that kind of stuff. I put together highlight videos. Went to college. I went to Concordia Irvine in Orange County and majored in sport management. Jumped on as a student worker under our SID. That's when I found out what an SID was. Worked for him for 3 years. I graduated a little early, private school perks, and became a grad assistant right off the bat. Worked as a grad assistant for a little bit. Got a job, my first full-time job as the assistant SID at a Division III school in Claremont, Claremont Mud Scripts, where my sister went. So we were there at the same time, which was kind of fun. And then somebody who I did grad work with, who I was a grad assistant with at Concordia, Cammie Lewis, played basketball here. And he interned with the World Series. He knew a lot of people in the department. And he's the SID now at Santa Ana College, which is a JUCO in Orange County. So when they started the search for an SID here, they wanted someone with a baseball mind, and they called him, and I was a recommendation. So this is my 3rd year here now.
Yeah, and what a crazy 3rd year
Yeah.
it has been. What was the craziest day you've experienced this year?
Gosh, I mean, opening rounds were a lot. There were days where we had cross country and volleyball on the same day, plus sports on the road, or even cross country and basketball on the same day. We hosted 3 cross country meets. 3? Well, I'm going to say 3.5 cross country meets this year. We had one that ended up falling through because the team couldn't make it because of snow. So it was more of an inter squad, but we still were set up to stream and run a normal meet. We had 2 regular season, and then the conference meet, which we weren't planning on hosting, but it got moved here because we were in Idaho. We were open.
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple of those meets where we wrap up cross country and then jam back over to the school to get ready for either volleyball or basketball, get the gym set up, get the computer set up. And then there was the first day of the conference baseball tournament. Randy, you were there.
Yep.
That was a 15-hour day for me. That's Saturday. And I show up 3 hours before game time, typically, regardless of the sport, whether it be volleyball, basketball, or baseball. So that turned into a 15-hour day. But the craziest day of the year has not happened yet. It's probably going to be this Friday or Saturday.
So the possibilities, though, and we'll talk a little bit about that here. I know we'll talk about it in our baseball segment, but NAIA, what's the chances that the automatic bid, this is last year for the automatic bid for LC here. How do you think that's going to affect things for the Warrior program if it moves away from here?
I mean, well, it's not going to move away from here necessarily. We have the series here until 2025. It's the auto bid to the series we lose, but we still got that auto bid to the opening rounds for a couple of years. So we're guaranteed a spot in the playoffs. But I'm hoping that people still value and respect the history here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yes, people talk about the auto bid and it's an unfair advantage. I get it. I really do. I understand the argument. But at the same time, with all those 19 titles, we haven't had the auto bid for all 19 of those. We had to fight our way there for, a good chunk of those, if not the majority of those. And we still have to fight our way through the World Series. You don't just show up and win. And people think we're at an advantage because we didn't play in an opening round. Well, all those teams are playing top teams and, getting better, getting ready for a series, whereas all we can do is scrimmage ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't necessarily think it's a huge advantage. I mean, it's an advantage. Don't get me wrong. You're playing in your home stadium, whatever. But I'm hoping people still recognize the history and the culture here, and they still want to come to LC. And I don't think that's going to go away.
And speaking of the World Series, obviously this year a little different than most. Can you explain to everyone listening what the rules and regulations are for the World Series? I know things have kind of lifted a little bit, but what should they expect this weekend?
So it's 65% capacity. So tickets went on sale this morning for the general public. We have tickets set aside for the families of teams, for certain individuals. We had a small number, I don't know how many off the top of my head, on sale for Friday, Saturday, Monday. And we're splitting it into sessions this year. It's not full day tickets anymore. It's an AM session and PM session for the first 3 days. As far as coming into the stadium, if you're not vaccinated, it's it's local guidelines. If you're not vaccinated, they recommend you wear a mask. Just pretty much whatever's going on in the area. But the social distancing is still in place, and the 65% capacity is in place per the NAIA.
Mm-hmm.
So, Randy, did you pick up our tickets for Monday yet?
I need to still. I was kind of waiting to see what Alicia was going to put me to work on. So now that I know that I have Monday free, now I can get these tickets.
Yep. Online only.
Online only. All right.
That's better for me. I'm too lazy to go back down there. That's why we're doing the show from home. So I got to bring up, so I brought it up earlier, but you were named the Cascade Conference Sports Information Director of the Year. So how did you hear about that, and how do you feel?
It's really cool. I mean, for me, the coolest thing is I have always wanted to be the first female to do something, but, I was just like, what am I going to do to be the first female doing something? And I did it. It just, I was in shock for a little bit to be the first female conference SID of the year. And it's really nice. The conference SID, Sammy Wellman, is a good friend of mine. I actually, I forgot to mention, I interned for the conference that we were in. It was a D2 conference, and she was an SID at that school. So I got to know her when I was doing that, and now she's the SID here for the Cascade Conference. So she was the one to tell me, well, she's the one to nominate me. I actually was left off the email announcing that I won. The conference commissioner forgot to put me on the email. So I started getting emails from all the other SIDs congratulating me, and I just scroll down and figure out what the heck they were talking about. Because I just got the congratulations. I'm like, I missed something. So yeah, the commissioner forgot to put me on the actual email announcing that I won the award.
Just the most important email. She doesn't need to know. That's totally fine. Speaking of emails, how many emails do you go through in a day?
I somewhere around probably 100.
Yeah.
Especially right now, because there's so many, sponsors, the program. We just finished putting together like a 70-page program, and coaches and the NAIA people, and just even within our office, there's so many emails going around.
Mm-hmm.
And then during the regular season, I'm emailing coaches and other SIDs, and a lot. Let me see. I actually don't delete a lot of emails like I should. So there's currently over 25,000 emails in here, but that's obviously across 3 years.
Wow. I thought I was bad because I get close to 20 a day at school, and I thought I was bad with about 1,200 by the end of the school year. That's some crazy numbers. So
you got to get on Alicia's level.
All the stuff that goes with, pictures, Photoshop files, Premiere, InDesign, PDFs. And there's always, I'm the one that has the Photoshop suite, or the Adobe suite. So it's, hey, can you change this document, or can you make this into this?
So we're getting into, like we talked, NAIA here to happen in a few days. How many people does it take to actually really run that? I know you have a lot of volunteers, and I think that's the big plus about what our area is about, because they love the NAIA, they love Lewiston and Clarkson, and there's a ton of people that put in the extra hours. How many man hours do you think happen, and is there something that some of our fans might be able to get involved with you?
Absolutely. We're still looking for volunteers right now, actually. We have a lot of open spots for the main concession stand for the first probably 3 days of the series, but we're still looking for more volunteers. So if you go on the NAIA World Series website, naiaworldseries.com, sign up to volunteer. Anybody can volunteer. People don't realize how much work goes into getting the series ready. We've been in full series mode for probably 2 weeks now, at least. And we start having World Series meetings in October. But I remember the first day of the World Series in 2019, my first World Series, I was here the first night. We had a rain delay and games going long, and I was here until 2 a.m. that day, getting everything prepped for the next day. Had to be back at 6 a.m. But we're all just, it's a frenzy up here. It's insane. We're having lunch brought in. Our intern started yesterday. We've got 4 interns, and it's just, even then, it's like if we could get more bodies, it would be so. We want to duplicate people. We just had a transition where our facilities director left. He got a job at another school Friday was his last day. We had somebody who's actually been on staff transition into that role. What's funny is he's actually been the interim facility director for a couple World Series, so he knew exactly what was going on. But people don't realize the hours that go into it. I mean, I've been here since 7:30. I'm still working on things. I've been out at the press box. My coworkers have been driving around town. We're getting vans to hotels for teams because there's a rental shortage. We're delivering banners. We're getting in touch with sponsors. There's just so much that goes on behind the scenes. I can't even begin to think about how many hours. I don't want to think about how many hours.
So how much do you think COVID has affected maybe the volunteer numbers or people getting involved? How much do you think that has affected things?
I know it's taken away some positions because we're not selling tickets at the gate, so that's taken our ticket sellers away. We're not doing like the candy shack, so there's less opportunity. But I really do. I mean, people aren't volunteering in groups as much. We're not getting as many groups, which is kind of understandable. And there's also the matter of putting money behind getting the word out. I mean, we're able to do what we can, but we do have that money crunch, and it stems from not having the series last year and not being able to bring in fans this year. And then there's people who are just mad that we're not selling as many tickets.
Right.
But what they don't, volunteering is such a great way to be able to get into the games. So if you want tickets but aren't able to get tickets, volunteer. You'll get in.
There you go, Robert. If I fail on Monday, you gotta be able somehow.
Sell some hot dogs.
So looking at your profile earlier, what was your favorite thing to do before becoming an SID? I saw you were an intern at the 2016 Ryder Cup, which I'm super jealous of myself. But
oh my gosh, I met Bill Murray doing that. I got to talk to Bill Murray for like 5 minutes. Now that was super, super fun. Learned a ton. That what they did with the interns for that one and for the senior PGA tournament is they just kind of had you do a little bit of everything. The Ryder Cup, we did a lot of hospitality management, so it was a lot of scanning tickets, managing hospitality rooms. Adrian Peterson came through. He was in Minnesota, so putting a wristband on him, his wrist was bigger than my thigh. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, met Bill Murray, and just the atmosphere at the Ryder Cup is so different than any other golf tournament. It's just so much. There's so much more hype behind it, and it's almost like they're playing for more because they were playing for a team as opposed to individual. But like the Patrick Reed, Rory McIlroy thing. Do you remember the moment where they shushed the crowd? I don't know.
I'd have to go back and look, but
yeah, I was at that hole, and the crowd went crazy. It was the coolest thing ever. The atmosphere was just so cool. It's probably the coolest thing I've ever done in sports.
I still can't wait for the day that Joel Damon can make that team because he's so energetic and crazy anyways. Yeah, he had some moments this last weekend that he would fit in perfectly with the Ryder Cup.
It's the coolest thing I've done.
Yeah, I think that's probably the funnest tournament that we could ever attend, I think. So.
Right. So just real quick, obviously, you're super busy getting things going, but is there a first round matchup that you are really excited to see on Friday?
There's history between LC and Faulkner. So, I'm excited for that because it's LC, but I never got to see LC and Faulkner, but I know they've gone at it a couple times in championship games. Yep. So I'm excited for that. Concordia, Nebraska. I went to Concordia, Irvine, so there's a little bit of me that's like, cool, it's another Concordia, because those were somewhat related. They're like cousin schools, if you would. And it's their first time, too, which is really cool. It's a matchup between two first-time teams, which is, with them and IU Southeast, who upset Tennessee Wesleyan, so I really want to see what this team's all about.
And I think putting that at the 3 o'clock spot was fantastic, because hopefully that'll be probably as big a crowd as we can get for that, as everyone's getting ready for LC.
Yeah. Sorry, Brooke was walking by.
No, you're fine.
I'm doing an interview on the radio.
Just again, Alicia doing 5 things at once.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. Like you said, you've been super busy. So let's get on to what we like to do with the other athletes that you bring on and ask a bunch of goofy questions. I already know this answer, but let everyone else know who your favorite sports team is. There's a spoiler in the background, but you can go ahead. Yep.
It's hard a lot of the time. But I'm an Angels fan through and through, and a huge Anaheim Ducks fan as well. So that was really hard this year.
So I like that. So out of your, it's probably going to be an Angel. Who's your favorite player then?
Currently or all time?
I think I know both. I think I got a strong possibility I know both of them. But how about we answer both of it, all time and then current?
So all time, it's either David Eckstein or Adam Kennedy.
I was a little shocked. All right, I was thinking the fish. I was thinking Tim Salmon. I figured.
Oh, see, okay, I'm a big. I actually met him once. I don't get starstruck very often, but I ran the 5K when the Angels hosted the All-Star game in 2010, and he was handing out medals at the finish line, and I was just like, holy crap. I met him, Rod Carew, and Paul Molitor all like within a 2-minute span, and I was just beside myself. I'm a huge baseball nerd. I grew up playing softball, but baseball's always been my favorite sport.
There we go. We've got our fill-in person for the summer. You just come back after the series is over.
She's been super busy. She needs a break, and I would say she gets a break, but she's getting married this summer, so she doesn't even get a break then.
2 or 3 weeks after series, I'm getting married, so there's no break there.
No.
And my favorite current Angel is actually David Fletcher.
Oh, okay.
Because he's very similar to David Eckstein.
Yeah. Absolutely. A little insight into the PA box on a lot of times is you can hear the play-by-play for the Angels game in the room where Alicia will be hanging out. I usually have the Yankee game on my phone in front of me while we're doing whatever LC games going on. So, yes, there's a lot of baseball going on in the PA box.
And the Angels are losing again.
Yeah, right.
And they're losing even more.
All right, what's your favorite sports movie?
Goodness. I really like A League of Their Own. That kind of combines the baseball and softball thing, even though I know it's not a softball movie, but that one's really good. And then Field of Dreams is a classic. I got to go there a couple of years ago, and it was really cool to see the movie site with that one. So it's one of those two. And then The Sandlot. And not The Sandlot. I mean, Sandlot's good. Benchwarmers. I love Benchwarmers. That's the movie I quote the most.
All right, Randy likes to ask this one, but how about your favorite snack food? I don't see any snacks behind you anywhere, so no tipping that off any.
It's not necessarily a food. I love milk and cookies, but Randy knows this one pretty well. I'm always drinking a cherry Pepsi. And that's a little bit of I need the caffeine and don't like coffee. I just love Pepsi.
Well, Randy was the same way with Mountain Dew for a lot of years, so we know that.
What about you've been here for 3 years. What's your favorite restaurant in the Valley?
Stacks.
Yeah, I love that
Stacks
place. It's so good.
I had lunch with my mom yesterday. They're out visiting. They're going to be here for a series, and I love Stacks so much.
How about the craziest day of the year? I think you probably might have hit on it, but what is the craziest day this year?
This Friday.
I love it.
We knew it. Yeah. All right, we're going to play a little word association with you, and we're going to just say a couple names. Throw out maybe 1 or 2 words about each of these people. I'm going to let Randy start, and then we'll wrap through it.
All right, so we got to go. I mean, she already made an appearance, kind of, but the athletic director, Brooke.
Boss lady. The tournament does not happen without her. She's been doing this. She's been the tournament director for a long time.
A lot of years. I mean, how many times I've seen her walk by constantly, rarely see her sit down. How about Clayton Van Dyke?
Killer on the graphics. Just the kid is good at whatever he does. And I don't know if you saw today, he came out. He was the conference scholar athlete of the year. So I'm just really proud to even have a little piece of that. Just be involved with him at all.
Yeah, we had him on a couple weeks ago, and just that. I mean, that's just his mentality, and he's fantastic. Another one that I already know because we've talked about it a few times, but Riley Brown. Intern
extraordinaire. I was just texting her a little while ago, and I was like, "Can you come back now?" Because they're at nationals. They start competing tomorrow, and she's like, "I need you. I couldn't do this job without her and Clayton." And she's a good friend too. Like we'll go to lunch together, or she knows when my days are a little hectic, and she'll walk in with a muffin or a cookie, and she just knows when I need a pick me up.
All right, this guy, I've known this guy for a long time, but how about Bert Saulberg?
I was actually just talking to Bert. Bert's just kind of like, he's like that. He's like a dad almost. He's making sure that everything is okay. He'll step in when he needs to, and he's super knowledgeable about everything. We were just up in the press box talking about everything series, and I know if somebody has to leave the press box, he can fill in any of those roles, whether it be stats or PA or video board. He's got my back no matter what, and I could not do this without Bert. He's done a ton of writing for me this year too, which was clutch.
You know, Randy, I'm just going to have to jump in and start getting over there and going in. So start learning it. So I'm going to throw one in there that's not in there. And it's just because you talk with him all the time. How about Randy Isbell?
Oh, God.
Randy, we were all talking about it. We love Randy. Because even if somebody doesn't show up or they cancel on me last minute on PA, I know I can text Randy and he's going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And just, I like being able to help. I love helping people. And being able to see him have fun in those opportunities is just really cool. Like when Danner was getting ready for radio for conference and being able to get Randy on the air, that was really fun.
Yeah,
it's fun for me to see you happen.
Well, thank you. And again, I thank you more than I can say for as much as you've helped me already in this freshman year. And again, you're probably going to get sick of me in the next 3 years as I ask for more and more.
I'm we have you for 3 more years. You ready to do some volleyball play-by-play?
I'm down. I did the one, and I'm starting to learn more. So
yeah, perfect.
I'll get it. I'll get that game figured out at some point.
Plan on it.
And
plan on being there for volleyball.
The one that's always the hardest for everybody, and this is what we'll end on, but give us the word association for Alicia Alexander.
Busy. I'm always doing something. I have this pen holder that says I'm actually really busy.
It's not. It couldn't be any further. It's the big truth, for sure.
I mean, I'm always doing something, and even my fiance would tell you, even if I'm at home, I have a hard time sitting still, just because I want to get things done.
So are you going to get, obviously you're getting married here a couple weeks after the World Series. Do you have plans to actually take a break this summer after the wedding, or is it right into next season?
I mean, volleyball starts in August, so the late August, maybe September. I don't remember off the top of my head, which is shocking. But I mean, we'll take, the pen holder. Typo. It's a Cotton On brand. We'll take a break. Like, we'll take our time kind of getting back up here because Zach's got to get back to work. But just being in California will be a little relaxing for a couple days. If you're there for more than a couple days, it's not relaxing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. We'll honeymoon probably next year, and that'll be a break. We're going to hit some baseball stadiums, I think.
There you go. So, Alicia, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule. I'm sure Brooke is ready for you to do more as you tried to come in and enjoy what you can of the World Series this weekend. I know you're going to be really busy. I will see you bright and early Saturday morning. I'm sure even though I'll be there at like 8, you'll have been there for 3 hours already. It's just what you do. So, again, thank you so much for everything you've done here already and for coming on with us.
All right, that's Alicia Alexander, the Cascade Conference Sports Information Director of the Year. Oh my God, Randy, they just keep getting better and better. This young lady has got a great head on her shoulders. She knows what she's doing, and I see why LC leans on her so much.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Again, she does so much, and I mean, we could have spent 2 hours catching up on the rest of the stuff that she does with all of the writing. And not only is she the reason why we get all of the guests that we do, 80% of the stuff I get from LC is off of articles that she wrote.
Yeah.
So I steal a lot of her information.
And I bet you, dimes to donuts, she will be up front watching that match between Kai Fong and us, and maybe even.
Hopefully, she's too busy, and I bet that embarrassment.
I bet you all of the guests show up. I can see Clayton showing up, Annika, all of those guys showing up and watching us getting crushed.
That's why we waited till June. So hopefully they're all busy enjoying their summer. So we talked about it a little bit with Alicia. Let's talk about the NAIA World Series. It will start this Friday with 4 games going on, both Friday and Saturday, and then 4 games on Monday, and then it'll start to kind of narrow itself down. But let's look at the Friday schedule, and we got some fun games. as bright and early, 8:30 in the morning. You get LSU Shreveport and Kaiser. So very long travel for both teams.
And that's what hurts, I think. You look at that and you look at everybody, but I mean, who else would you put there in that game? I mean, we can look at all of them and place them, but that's got to be hard on the body. When do you think they've got to be already here, or
you would think so,
to try to get
especially
acclimated
with the long travel. They're either here right now or they're here tomorrow.
Yeah,
to kind of give them a few days. That's the weird thing, is somebody that has worked at Lancers Casino for so many years, and we're across the street from the Best Western. We always have families from the NAIA schools that'll come in and gamble throughout. So usually I kind of know when they are showing up, but obviously not working there right now is kind of hindered that.
I mean, but how bad does that hinder, like an LSU Shreveport, and where Kaiser's at? I mean, that's almost 2,300 miles, 2,400 miles away from here. So I think that's going to be a great kickoff game, though.
Oh yeah, that's going to be good. I mean, LSU Shreveport was last in here 2012. Kaiser making their second appearance, as they were first in at 2017. I'm getting a little bit of echo from myself, Robert, so I don't know if something weird's happening over there. Maybe it's from me. Mm-hmm. Who knows? The next game, you get Georgia Gwinnett, who is making their fourth appearance. Will be facing off against Oklahoma Wesleyan, who's making their third appearance. Another really, really fun game there. And then, as we talked about with Alicia, the two nightcaps for day one are just fantastic. First time for both teams between Concordia, Nebraska, and Indiana Southeast. Again, making their debuts. Indiana Southeast taking out the number one team, giving them both of their losses in that tournament. I'm really excited to see what they can do.
Oh, yeah. I mean, first time to the Valley, and I would love to be in that stadium at that time. I know I still have school going on at that time, but I would love to see what kind of reaction that crowd gives them. And I know it's a 3:00 game, but for both ball clubs, first time here, what kind of impression they get from this home crowd from Lewis Clark?
Now, obviously, I'm hoping that we pack the stands as much as we can for all four games, but at least for this one. I mean, if you are coming in for the LC game, come in at 3:00 and watch this one as well. I want these two teams to get the full NAIA experience here at Lewis and Idaho. I think they both deserve it. And being first times, I think it'd be really cool if we get all 65% of the stands there and giving them a good time. And then, Alicia said, there's so much history here between Faulkner and LCSC. And obviously, it's not set up. It's not like the NAIA was setting up this matchup. It's all based off of coaches' poll rankings, and that's how we rank the 10 teams. It just worked out that way. But Faulkner making their 9th World Series appearance, and they've made 9 in the last 10 years. They won one World Championship in that time. They won it in 2013. They were runners-up in 2016 and 2017. Both of those runner-up spots came against LCSC, who won those years. So a lot of revenge looking out there for Faulkner. Obviously, LC, their 39th World Series appearance. Now, obviously, the last 19 or 20 of those have come with the automatic bid, and everyone will complain about that. But as Alicia said, it's not always been the case. And this team has just been fantastic since the 80s and is always there. 19 World Championships. Yeah, we'll get into it in a second when we get into the LCSC schedule, but what a perfect way to end day one.
Oh, yeah, by far, having a matchup back like that with Faulkner and Lewis Clark. Every time I think about it, I think about the idea of myself sharing those couple of games with my grandfather in the old bleachers on the third baseline, watching LC, and when they only had maybe 1,000 people in there, and now what it's grown to, and the followings. That's the big thing is the followings for these guys, and there's just so much history. And I mean, you could add Grand Canyon in the mix with that, with the teams that were the rivals of Lewis Clark. And it's just, I mean, it's so rich in history that I think they got it right. I think the coaches' polls were 100% right here.
Yeah, it worked out just beautifully. And the other two teams in the tournament who get the bye in the first round, you get Southeastern, who is making their third straight World Series appearance. They were the number 2 team in the country. And Central Methodist, making their first World Series appearance, were the 4th ranked team in the country. And that is who the winner of Faulkner and LC would play on Monday at 6:30.
I'm a little shocked though, and you and I.
Excuse me, that's I've skipped ahead. So Central Methodist will play the winner of IU Southeast and Concordia, and then the winner of that will play the winner of LC and Faulkner.
Right. I think the big one for me is not seeing the number 1 team and the number 3 team, as both of those ball clubs get knocked out quite quickly. There,
and that's why why the detractors of LC say that this automatic bid into the World Series is unfair. Is because you get 5 teams in this opening round and only 1 can advance. And if you have a bad weekend, like Tennessee did, I mean, you might not be able to be in this World Series, and LC is able to skip by that. Now, obviously, they have, as Alicia had also mentioned, they have that extra break in there, and sometimes you can get cold from there. And now playing a really tough team. But that's the cool thing with these opening rounds. It's not like, I mean, obviously the NCAA tournament in basketball is great because you get these upsets, but now you get a 5-team kind of a round robin-ish tournament where, I mean, you lose twice, you're done, and anything can happen there. I mean, it did look like, from what I saw out of the 9 tournaments, all 9 representatives were either the 1, 2, or 3 seeds in the tournament, so nothing too crazy came out of it, but it definitely can, and it definitely showed with 2 of the top 3 teams getting eliminated before we even made it to the World Series. So again, as I said, for LC, if they win on Friday, they will play Monday at 6:30 between the winner of the Central Methodist game, as they would be taking on the winner of IU Southeast and Concordia. If they do lose on Friday, they will play Saturday at 11:30 a.m. against the loser of that IU Southeast and Concordia matchup. It would be the game right after I do my 1 PA stint in the World Series. So I'm going to have to try to find a way to not leave after I do my work if LC does happen to lose on Friday.
I think Alicia will probably put you to work somewhere,
Yeah. However, I could not leave the stadium. It's figure out what, I mean, my kids could do concessions. I mean,
yeah, there you go.
Addie's only 4, but she can hand out money. She'll figure it out.
Especially not out of the candy sack. I wonder how much, like I said, I asked her how much this affects the bottom line. We know that LC is missing a lot of revenue from things last year because it just builds from year to year to year, and a lot of these folks not being able to have that income, and we talked about it last year. I mean, look at the hotels that lost out, even the restaurants. It affects our community so much. And I think, and like she said, NAIA right now is booked out till 2025. I hope we can figure a way to keep it going and these teams come back. Like, we're the Omaha of NAIA.
We're also the New England Patriots of the NAIA. Either you love us or you hate us. And boy, if you hate us, you find all sorts of reasons why you do it. I love it. I love looking at Twitter around this time and just seeing the hate being spewed at the Warriors. It makes me feel great. All right, let's move on to the Major League Baseball side of things. Couple quick news notes to get to as Royals have activated Alberto Mondesi. He'll make his debut today against the Rays. I need to look at how he is doing so far. Bryce Harper now on the 10-day DL because everyone is going on the IL. Anybody that plays fantasy baseball knows you cannot have enough IL spots on your team. I have one team, not to get into the fantasy too much, but I have one fantasy team right now that has 6 people on the IL, and that's after dropping a few. It is just getting brutal right now. Speaking of the IL, the way players can get injured in the major leagues is the funniest thing ever. But Zach Plesac to the IL after he fractured his right thumb trying to take off his undershirt on Sunday. Only in the major leagues can a story like this happen.
So I read it, and then I had to go and look at it, and I reread it again, and he got it caught, supposedly pulling his arm out, and he got it caught in the back of the chair. I'm just trying to physically think, what kind of chair do you get your thumb caught in? You would think it's a comfy chair with most of those guys that are, or
I don't know. It's just
a chair.
What a story. Well, I mean, we've seen players go on the IL because they cut themselves making dinner. We have seen players go on the IL because they slipped down some stairs or they were playing with their kids and hurt their back. But taking off their shirt might be a new one for me. If you're listening live or even if you're listening later, comment below what you think was the craziest injury you've ever seen. Yeah, that might top it for me. Just the out of the blue stuff.
Yeah, it's just crazy. So, and one that I didn't add on there, I know it's a little bit, and we don't like to bash on the men behind the dish or anything else, but how about Joe West? Joe West is breaking MLB record for the most games umpired there today. So that happened today, but he is planning on retiring at age 68. So one guy that's been around.
One of the worst umpires. The whole league.
He is.
He and Angel Hernandez are in my top 2 of least favorite umpires ever. All right, we're gonna have a little bit of fun now with Major League Baseball. Play a little game, and we're going to come up with our top 3 rotations in the major leagues right now. So, I want Robert. Give me your number 3.
You're gonna laugh at me, but I'm going to lean the Boston Red Sox. Here's the only reason why. They do have one of the best records as a starter group. Right now, they're 24-11. Bad part is they're giving up their batting average is 254 or in the 240s, something like that. But they are a workhorse team. They've got over 254 innings pitched, but their ERA a little on the high side at just over 4. So I do like that they're the work club. They're just pounding it. And we got Rodriguez there, Evaldi, Richards, Perez, but then Sale is on the IL. So hopefully Sale will be getting back soon. But
so I'm believing sometime in July for Sale coming off of Tommy John.
Right. So, if they can keep being the workhorse load with those guys, that record, and keeping the innings away from the bullpen, I think I'm okay with that 4-run ERA that they're giving up.
My number 3 is a team I have been shouting from the rooftops is so good. I mean, obviously the Yankees swept them this week. Oops. But the Chicago White Sox, listen, when the worst pitcher in your rotation right now, stat-wise, is Lucas Giolito, who is your best talent and is starting to turn things around right now, pitching against the Cardinals, has 4 innings pitched, has struck out 3, and has a 5-2 lead at the moment, starting to figure things out. But you got Giolito. Carlos Rodon has been ridiculous. He and Lance Lynn have been fantastic. Rodon with a 1.27 ERA so far this season. Lance Lynn with a 1.51 ERA. That is gross for ERAs here late into May. Giolito is their only starter that has more than 1 loss on the season. You have Michael Kopech, who's really, really young. He's only made a couple starts, and usually his starts only last 3 or 4 innings. They're slowly starting to stretch him out. Dallas Keuchel's been fantastic. Their starter's 19-8 on the year with a 2.96 ERA, which is 4th best in the league. It might even get lower if Giolito continues to figure things out. My number 2 is the San Francisco Giants. They're the reason they're in this race. Obviously, they have lost the lead in the NL West because the Padres and Dodgers are just too good. But Gosman, Desclafani, Wood, Cueto, Webb, Sanchez, any mix of them right now. Our good friend Michael Mitchell messaged me this weekend talking about how the Giants have taken the Oakland approach of just finding has-beens and finding a way to all get them all to have their career years at the same time on their team. But you look at Gosman and Wood right now; they're combined 9-1 on the year. Both have an ERA under 2, which again is just ridiculous. How about, in the era of home runs, the Giants starting pitchers are giving up a 0.75 home run per 9 rate in the majors. That's second best in the league. And I talked about the White Sox ERA, but the Giants even better, 2.88 ERA from their starters, which is third best. The starting pitching is the reason why the Giants are still in the race in the NL West.
Right. Yeah, 100%. I like what they're doing, and it's just going to be it. It is, like you said, Mitchell making that comment. It's just a bunch of has-beens thrown together, and they're just
It really is
doing quite well. So, I'm gonna be the other side. I know this is your number one team, and it's for the same reason, where we're at, and you can dive into it just as much as I can, but we got to look at LA. The Dodgers for me are number 2.
Yep.
Yeah, Dodgers are number 2. But you look at it, Kershaw, Bauer, May. They had.
Don't forget the great Walker Buehler.
Yeah, Buehler. I mean,
Walker Buehler's great.
The big one for me is the strikeouts to 9. I mean, almost 11 strikeouts to 9. And
for 9 innings.
Yeah, and they're 22-8 on the season. I mean, they're doing quite well now, turning it around. They had their moments, but I think that was a lack of offense, a little bit more offense than the pitching. I mean, they're keeping the team in. So like right now, you got Kershaw in the bump right now. He's got a 4-0 lead. They jumped all over Zach Greinke here a few minutes ago against the Astros, as they are in the bottom of the 6th right now, leading 4-0. But look for that team just to keep going. I mean,
they're going to be so good. I mean, again, they had lost 7 of 10 at one point in the season, and we're 3rd place in the division. It's like nobody believes it's going to stick that way, and it definitely has not. Just a couple more things to bring on. This is a very nerdy stat, but a 246 BABIP, which is batting average on balls in play. So that basically takes out strikeouts and home runs. So anytime a batter hits the ball and it goes into the field of play, there's a stat that tells your average there, which usually when you're looking at pitchers is big as far as weak contact. And that's what you're looking at. For the Dodgers, with that 246 BABIP, it's the best in the league by far. They're not missing. Obviously missing a lot of bats with the strikeouts, but when they are giving up contact, it's not strong, and it's fantastic. Just real quick though, who do you think has the best K per 9 rate in the league?
Ooh,
it's a very surprising team.
K for 9, huh? I would maybe Chicago. You think
it is not Chicago?
Wow.
It is relevant from our guest. The Los Angeles Angels have the largest K per 9 so far.
Otani's looking good. I mean, maybe
Otani is just a freak. It's just he has changed everything with the way he's been playing. All right, give me your number 1.
For me, it's kind of a no-brainer. I've got to go with San Diego. I mean, as much as I like Musgrove, I think, him finally getting San Diego's first no-hitter. Darvish has been looking quite well. They're 12-9 on the season, 2.8 ERA. That puts them 2nd in the major leagues right now. Their WHIP is just over 1, which is pretty good. But holding the team's batting averages to 207, I mean, that says a lot for that rotation. And if they're getting the job done, getting them into the 7th inning, that they've had a great closeout. I think they've got Don't quote me because I'm still thinking starters. I think they've got 18 saves if you want to jump to the bullpen side of it. But overall, that's a great pitching staff going on right now. Yes. There, I think what San Diego Musgrove is sitting, I think 12th in ERA with a 2.26.
Doesn't go far. Hopefully, it wasn't due to injury. I haven't seen what happened. Doesn't go 5, but doesn't give up a run either today. And they're already into the bullpen as they're up 4-0 on Milwaukee right now. So we'll see how that goes, and again see what happened with Musgrove and why he didn't make it even 5 innings. But right now it is time to go into our power rankings. And just as a note, as far as our draft teams go, I'll put them on the bottom of the screen for the teams that we drafted at the beginning. But right now, Robert with a 9-win lead. But as far as compared to the 500 records, Robert right now 1 game over 500. I am 1 game under 500. As he had a pretty good week, 42 and 38 to my 37 and 41. So it is super close still. Obviously, a long ways to go. But Robert, go ahead and give us your top 5 in your power rankings.
Yeah, and the big one for me, I'm keeping your Yankees there. The Yankees are slowly starting to play ball. Looks like the Yankees of old. I'm liking what I'm seeing. I think that they've won 6 of their last 8.
Somewhere in there.
Something like that, if I remember right. They're starting to finally put things together, and it's starting to look like that team of old. Yeah, that's 6 of they're 8-2 over the last 10. So, that they're just looking that good, almost 600, 600. So I'm going to keep them right in that same spot. In the 4 spot for me, the Dodgers. The Dodgers got a big push this last weekend. They looked unbelievable. And they're looking good tonight with Kershaw on the bump. Keeping Chicago in the 3 spot. And then I'm entering Tampa Bay in the 2 hole. Tampa Bay is starting to look really, really good. And then San Diego. I'm just on San Diego right now. They're just Fernando Tatis. We knew he was going to be good, but he's been lights out the last week.
To get injured the way he did, and we both felt like he came back too soon, and he has just been lights out since he's come back. It's just been phenomenal, for sure. Yeah. All right, okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say quick update. JP Crawford got the Mariners on the board, 2-0.
Yeah, no one cares. My top 5. I had them number 1 last week, but they do get swept by the New York Yankees, so I drop them down to 5 right now. Chicago White Sox still a fantastic team, still leading their division right now. Currently winning their game. I've lost where it went. 7-2 now over a very good St. Louis team. They did get the win yesterday as well. White Sox, just that pitching rotation is so good, and they have so many young bats that are starting to figure things out. But I have them 5th. I actually bring my New York Yankees into my top 5 as well. I have them 4th, though. Injuries are really starting to worry me. Stanton on the IL, which is nothing new for the Yankees. Corey Kluber, who threw the no-hitter while we were live on the air last week, left after the 3rd inning with some tightness in his throwing arm. So hopefully there's nothing too crazy there, and it was just precautionary. But this is what you always have to worry about as a Yankee fan over the last 5 or 6 years, is the injuries that start piling up. And the batting average has been so garbage. And if you look, other than Saturday where they beat the White Sox 7-0, most of their wins have come by a 2-1 score, a 3-2 score. Like, they're not putting up those runs. They did well over 1 game, but other than that, just waiting for the offense to find any kind of a groove. Congratulations to GJ LeMahieu. His wife just had a child, so he's off on paternity leave. Luke Voigt is supposed to go on paternity leave later this week, so brings a whole new term to the baby bombers as some of the team is going to be gone there. Hopefully Voigt, now having the child, will be able to kind of get into the groove. He's not been that great since coming off the injured list 2 weeks ago, so we'll see how that goes. For me, the number 3 teams, the Los Angeles Dodgers, they're starting to turn things around. That's all you can say. They are a fantastic team and will most likely end up being number 1 here soon. But I'm going to give my number 2 spot, and I don't know if Eric's listening right now or not, but how about the Tampa Bay Rays? What a weekend that Tampa Bay had. How about scoring 7 runs in the 11th inning to beat Toronto? The day after, they beat Toronto by scoring, 5 runs in the 9th inning, including 3 bases loaded walks. Just finding ways to win right now. They were on an 11-game winning streak until today, and they do end up losing to Kansas City 2-1, but still, just this team. I know a lot of people preseason, and I brought this up on how many shows where they said, Tampa Bay is going to take a big fall. They lost more pitching, and they're just not going to be able to figure it out. They always figure it out. Now they just traded their shortstop because they have a lot of depth at that position. They bring in a couple of pitchers from Milwaukee. You know that both pitchers are going to show up in like the 7th and 8th inning for Tampa Bay in October and win games for them. It's just what this team does. So they are number 2. And like you, it's the San Diego Padres. Just they are figuring it out. That pitching rotation is doing great things. Tatis is so fun to watch. I'm right there with you. So our top 2 are the same.
Yeah, I think also I have to put Junior's looking so much better than Dad ever did, especially in his career at the early stage. I really think he's just gonna blow his dad's legacy out of the water. I really do.
He's so good. All right, your score updates right now in the major leagues. So much action going on. Unfortunately, the Yankees down 6-1 now as Grichuk just hit a solo home run in the top of the 9th.
There's nothing unfortunate about that.
There's lots unfortunate with that. Good one in Washington as the Reds are over the Nationals 2-1 in the bottom of the 9th inning, 1 out away from getting a big win there. Atlanta over Boston 3-1 in the top of the 9th. So it looks like all the top 3 teams in the American League East all could go down. A crazy one. I'll keep you updated as we go along. But Cleveland over Detroit 4-1 in the bottom of the 9th inning. There are 2 outs in that bottom of the 9th inning, but the bases are loaded. So we will keep you up to date there. Mets over the Rockies 3-1 in the bottom of the 8th. As mentioned earlier, Padres up 4-0 in the top of the 7th over the Brewers. Twins over the Orioles 5-3 in the top of the 6th. White Sox all over the Cardinals 7-2 in the bottom of the 4th. Dodgers over the Astros 4-0 in the 7th. And just getting underway, Angels 1-0 over Texas. So if Alicia takes a break and sees the score, she'll be happy there. As you had just mentioned, Mariners up 2-0 over Oakland, bottom of the 1st. And the Giants already with a 3 spot on the Arizona Diamondbacks. 3-0 score, just going to the bottom of the 1st there. And finals so far today, Cubs beat the Pirates 4-3. Phillies beat the Marlins 2-0. And as just mentioned, the Royals give the Rays their first loss in 12 games as they win that one 2-1. All right, with that, let's move on to some LCSC sports. As not a lot going on the field just yet. We talked briefly with Alicia before we went on the air about how golf was going, and it's middle of the pack right now. We'll try to get some solid information before we get done there, but a lot of mentions as far as academic awards go, and that's just as important, if not more important, to talk about right now. But how about Hodges Bailey, as he becomes the first LCSC men's basketball player to earn the College Sports Information Directors of America Academic All-American. That is a mouthful and a half, but congratulations to him. He graduated with a 3.96 GPA and a degree in business administration. Also shot nearly 50% from 3. He has the 7th best mark in school history with that mark. Oh, he was also a first-team All-Cascade Conference, the Cascade Conference Defender of the Year, and an NAIA All-National Tournament team member. So Hodges had himself quite the senior season. Also, Clayton Van Dyke, as mentioned earlier, was voted the Cascade Conference Men's Scholar Athlete of the Year. He maintains a 4.0 GPA as a graphic communications major. That dude just can do no wrong in whatever he does.
And make sure you get his T-shirt, his
Yes.
design for the T-shirt for the NAIA. Well, I'm excited to see that.
The NAIA World Series T-shirt designed by Clayton, as he is currently in Oklahoma City getting ready to run in the national championships for the NAIA. We'll have all of the results next week there. And Carlos Davia was named the Golf Coaches Association of American All-West Region team. He finished second in the conference with a scoring average of 74.3, which is my scoring average in the front nine, and finished just 4 strokes behind the player who ended up being the player of the year. He did win the Warrior Spring Invitational after shooting a career best 66 over there in Clarkson. And we talked to her earlier. Alicia Alexander was named the first ever female Cascade Conference Sports Information Director of the Year in just her 3rd year here at LC. A light schedule for you coming up, as Wednesday will be day 2 of the NAIA Women's Golf National Championship in Oklahoma City. And Thursday and Friday will be the NAIA Outdoor Track and Field National Championships in Oklahoma City. And one last reminder, Friday at 7 p.m., LC takes on Faulkner over at Harris Field in Game 4 of the NAIA World Series. LCSC leads the all-time series 6-3 and won the 2016 and 2017 NAIA title games versus Faulkner. After losing the first game in 2017, they ended up winning that title. And the last 6 of 7 meetings between the two have been decided by 2 runs or less, which is just crazy. Oh, by the way, the one game that wasn't decided by 2 runs or less was decided by 3. So it has been a fantastic series between these two, all in the NAIA World Series. And what is going to make it really interesting as they play on Friday, the last 3 times they've met, 2015, 2016, 2017, they met multiple times in the same tournament. So it might not be the last time we say Faulkner versus LCSC on this show.
No, and it probably won't ever be. So I do have one update. You were just mentioning just a minute ago and doing a little search. Lauren Hamm right now is tied for 65th place, shooting a 78 6-over. And that's where she is sitting right now, kind of like she said, in the middle of the pack with a 78.
So we'll keep an eye out there. Also, one last update. Detroit failed to score any runs, and Cleveland wins that game 4-1. Also, Cincinnati does beat Washington 2-1 as they finish off their game. You are listening to the R&R Sports Report right here on Facebook or YouTube, whichever one you want to listen to. If you're listening to one, go subscribe on the other one if you haven't already. We want to once again thank you all for getting us past 500 Facebook page follows and making us face Kai Fong the week of June 14th. We will have a lockdown time, hopefully by the next show, and then details on how to watch it or what we're going to do as we get that all figured out. I'm trying to get through the World Series myself before start nailing this stuff down.
Yeah, I think we got to get through the World Series this week. You know, I'm wrapping up with school, end of the year school stuff. So, I mean, I'm excited, especially to know how much Kai Fong is excited about playing against us. I think that's the best part.
He just loves an easy matchup. I mean, he makes his students play all these really, really tough teams, but he has no problem taking on 2 schmucks and making us look bad on our own show. Yeah, I mean, he has no problem with it.
And
let's go ahead.
Oh, I was just say, and to hear all of these guys that, you know, our buddies wanting to root us on, you know, between Brian and both of our
not root us on. You're saying that wrong. They want to root against us and watch us feel pain. That's what they want.
I better take a couple of days off after that match.
Hello, Lois. Lois listening in. And she will probably be watching us get our butts kicked at will. My favorite thing when we were talking about the Kai Fong stuff at the beginning of the show was Alicia, who we had off the screen, just gut rolling at the fact that we were going to face Kai. It's just going to be so sad. Let's move on to the NFL, though. And I brought it up earlier, and I'm so sick and tired of it. But the Aaron Rodgers saga continues. He finally talked.
But he was there just where you couldn't get fined. That's exactly what he told Kenny Mayne. I'm just here because I won't get fined.
I hate that. I'm so sick of that phrase. It's the dumbest phrase in all of sports.
But it was kind of cool. It was kind of cool. I mean, Kenny Mayne is retiring and moving on from ESPN. But yeah.
Thanks, Lois.
But for him to he didn't let it kind of drop. Kenny Mayne kind of just kept poking it a little bit to try to get Aaron to say what he felt. And so
it is interesting. And I do believe him when he says it's not about the draft pick. It's about the philosophy going on in Green Bay after all this time. I don't think he was worried about losing his job to this kid for at least another year or two, but not giving him any help has probably just drug on him.
But the motivation he got from it for him to pick up what he did this year, I mean, what better way to just keep saying, But for me, define what your philosophy is. Is it with all the coaching? Is it or what? I mean, because in the conversation he says, he has some great teammates, he's got great coaches, he's got the great staff. So what part of it is the philosophy that he's having issue with?
It's the GM. I don't know if he came out and said it specifically, but I believe it's the GM.
No, he never did.
I'm never going to be able to say this guy's name right. Brian something. He has quite the name. But I believe it is Brian, and the fact that, as a GM, he has done nothing to help him offensively. They never go out and get the big free agents. They're always really quiet on draft day. The Packers have always been that team that goes from a different direction. And the fact that I feel that Aaron wants to be like a Russell Wilson, where he's wanting to put his input on the people they bring in, or he sees like a LeBron James getting, I don't want to say respect, but that level of, okay, who do you want to play with, and working with LeBron as to who's going to be on the Lakers. I think Aaron wants to have that kind of control, and I don't think he's getting that from the Packers GM, and I don't think he's getting any kind of respect from it at all, and I think it's wearing on him. And the fact now that with all of this going on, and now you have all those extra OTAs going on in Green Bay right now, and there are straight up quotes from his teammates calling him a baby, telling him to suck it up and get back and play, saying the Packers gave him all this kind of money, and now he is treating him like this. I don't think he's even wanted back right now, even though, I mean, the GM of the Packers has said he's not trading Aaron. And Aaron is doing them absolutely zero favors by doing what he's doing. How are you going to be able to trade Aaron Rodgers when all the teams know that he wants out? So that just drops the price. It's just it's a very interesting situation for sure.
Yeah, we can say the same thing with, and I hate bringing him up again, but Deshaun Watson. He made it quite clear again the other day that they said he wasn't going to be at any of the OTAs, and he still wants out. I mean, like you said, you hit it hard on the head. I mean, the value of these guys is just going to drop down. I understand. Yeah, there's wedding stuff going on in Hawaii right now, but he looked like they were saying Good Morning America, or Good Morning America, Good Morning Football was talking about Aaron Rodgers' interview with Kenny Mayne the other day, and he looked very just relaxed, almost surreal, like it's like this is what it is. I mean, here we go. I'm gonna be me, and to heck with everybody else, but I'm fine with what I'm doing. So But I'm gonna say this to you, and maybe we're gonna get to that point. And I put up there a minute ago. Haley thinks, yeah, give him someone to throw to. Does that go to where the other news is happening right now? Julio
0%.
Jones. Julio Jones, 32-year-old, says, I'm out of there, man. He told Shannon Sharp on Monday he's done with Atlanta, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's asked for a trade. He asked for a trade weeks before the draft happened. It doesn't come through. Ownership's not talking about it. The head coach is not talking about it. What do you think about Julio Jones and his situation?
I think he gets moved. We're getting to that point now that if you didn't trade him before the draft, nothing's going to happen until June 1st.
Correct.
Once June 1st happens, and the way the NFL is structured, and so basically when you trade somebody, you still have to, you get what's called dead money to your cap. So you still get a cap hit from that player, even though you trade them, just to avoid teams dumping players to save money to the salary cap, right? In the off season. But once you hit June 1st, that dead money gets split. So instead of it all landing in 2021, now half of it will hit 2021 and half will hit 2022, which makes things a little bit easier for this teams to be able to kind of work out their salary cap while still being able to move one of these players. So I do think Julio gets moved. To where is the big question. I need to look up real quick while you explain whether you think he's going to get moved or not, whether Julio has a no trade contract or not, because I honestly don't know. But what do you think about Julio?
I think it's time for him to move. As much as Matt Ryan needs him, I really think Matt Ryan needs him a lot. I think he will be on the move. The few teams that jump out, and I did add Green Bay there to a minute ago, thinking about they could easily use somebody. But I think the other ones that are more in the mix that need a quarterback or a receiver, you look at Jacksonville. I mean, they could easily use
Trevor Lawrence would have no problem with that.
I would agree. I mean, a great big wide receiver to throw to as a rookie. Denver, but who are you going to have for a quarterback? I mean, that's the roller coaster of a quarterback. And like we talked a few weeks ago, who would have figured that a GM and John Elway, one of the best quarterbacks, play top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL, can't keep a quarterback in Denver? I mean, how terrible is that? But I mean, they could use a weapon there. I threw Joe Burrows in there. Joe Burrows, I think, could really benefit from another one but also having Chase there now from LSU. That could be a great pairing on the other side. Indianapolis, what could Carson Wentz do in Indianapolis? That would give him a great weapon. San Francisco, I don't think, is out of the mix with that.
By the way, you can name all 31 teams.
You could.
But all 31 teams could use Julio.
And I'll say it too. I mean, it'd be another great flank to, I'm not taking anything away from Baltimore's draft picks with the two rookies coming in, but God, it'd be a great one on the other side of Marquise Brown. I mean,
so I looked it up. Julio Jones does not have a no trade clause, so he cannot pick what team he wants to go to, which makes this even more interesting. I think. I do believe that he will get traded to an AFC team. I don't think Atlanta will keep him in the NFC. So that takes out teams that I thought could be a good fit. Green Bay, San Francisco. Obviously, Dallas would be really interesting if they go there. Looking at cap space right now, your teams with the most cap space still available, as you brought up the Jaguars, they still have $40 million, so they could easily make that work. It'd be great with Trevor Lawrence. Another young quarterback, the New York Jets. They did a lot for their wide receiver core, but again, you're not going to get worse at wide receiver if you bring in Julio Jones. The Cincinnati Bengals, I think, is a really interesting one. They still have $22 million in cap space. How about the Cleveland Browns? Could you imagine Baker Mayfield being able to throw to Julio Jones, Odell Beckham Jr., and who am I forgetting now? The old Miami guy, Landry, Jarvis Landry. Having those three as his three wide receivers,
and now
on
you're
a
getting
team,
into
on
you're
a
getting
team
to the
that is
three
already
oldest.
an AFC North favorite, possibly with Cleveland, upgrading that. I agree with you with Baltimore, but I'm going to say it right now, and I want you to make a prediction too, whether he gets traded or not. I mean, you can say he stays with Atlanta, but my prediction for the team that Julio Jones will play on in 2021 is the New England Patriots. I think he wants to play with Cam Newton. Bill Belichick would love him. And speak of somebody that would be perfect for Mac Jones when he gets his chance. So, and New England has shown that they've gone all in this offseason.
Right.
And it would not surprise me after June 1st that we see Julio Jones traded to the New England Patriots for a third-round pick.
I like that. I mean, that's a smart one. But for me, I think honestly, look out, Indianapolis. Here he comes. He's going to join Carson Wentz to be on the other side of T.Y. Hilton. I mean, great. You got Michael Pittman Jr. back and things. I'm excited to see what Frank Reich does with Carson Wentz in that offense. And if I'm not mistaken, I want to say Indianapolis has about 21 million, 22 million.
A little less than that, but they have decent amount of cap space.
Yeah, so I mean that would be a great place. Sign him for a 2-year deal. If he doesn't like it after a year,
just under 15 million in cap space right now, according to overthecap.com.
Yeah, so why wouldn't you let Carson Wentz? You got a veteran quarterback there, and I think it's the same point you had. You got a veteran quarterback in Cam Newton, but you got another one here. And you got T.Y. Hilton. You got two really good guys, but then you get back to the same thing. I mean, you've got an older, as you were saying with Cleveland, you've got an older receiving core with Landry. You've got an older receiving core with in Odell Beckham there. It would be the same thing with T.Y. Hilton. So I think it would be a great thing. I mean, it'd be decent.
Yeah, it'll probably be a week or two before we hear anything, because again, I don't expect anything to happen until June 1st, and then after June 1st, we could get really interesting with Aaron Rodgers possibly moving, Julio Jones possibly moving, maybe Russell Wilson still gets moved. Who knows? But none of that stuff is going to happen until after June 1st now. Yep. So we'll get there. A couple other NFL news and notes real quick. Joe Burrow is starting to throw for Cincinnati. That's great news. He was fun to watch before his injury last year. And Antonio Brown does pass his physical, so he is officially signed back with Tampa Bay, as that team just has everybody. There's everybody back from last year.
That's a good thing to see. That ball club. I mean, I hated going against them, but I felt bad for Burrows. But AB too. Is that just going to be the fountain of youth in Tampa Bay? That's what makes me. Where is that fountain down in that area? What's ridiculous. In the water? What's in the water in Tampa Bay?
That'll be one of those things we talk about during the summer as we do just more and more NFL stuff. Is our Super Bowl favorites, and Tampa Bay is going to be right up there. But the game that we're going to play today is a fun one. So, what is it usually? The average is like 5. Teams that make the playoffs that don't make it the next year.
I think
it's 4 or 5. But we're going to only do 3. So I want 3 teams who made the playoffs last year who will not make it this upcoming year. And then the exact opposite. The 3 teams that missed the playoffs last year that are going to make it this year. Robert, let's start with the teams that made it last year that you do not think will make it. Which teams are going to take a downward turn?
For me, it's a no-brainer with the Washington football team. How terrible that division is. They just snuck in there.
Which means they might get in there. That division has been so bad.
I think the Giants have a little bit better chance of getting up there this next year after how they drafted people. So I can see that happening. So Washington won't make the playoffs. Give me the Chicago Bears. The Chicago, I don't think will make it. I think the other teams in that division are just going to be stepping up so much better. So those two ball clubs. And I know I am going to tick a lot of people off by this next comment. Sorry, Seahawk fans, your Seattle Seahawks will not make the playoffs. Here's why, and I'll tell you, and it's going to be two teams. It's going to be Arizona making a push this year. I think Arizona is a lot better. They're making moves. And I think that's the bottom line. I think Seattle did absolutely nothing to do any kind of movement draft wise.
Definitely did not fix their offensive line.
No. So sorry guys, but your Seahawks, you'll be probably another 7-10 team.
It's weird to say 7-10.
I know it's weird to say 7-10.
So Robert has Chicago, Washington, and Seattle. My three teams. I'm going to agree with you on two of them. The Chicago Bears barely snuck in last year. Going to have complete quarterback craziness going on. Does Justin Fields start week 1 or will it be Andy Dalton? Will it even work out for Justin Fields? Obviously, this goes into effect with if Aaron Rodgers gets traded. That whole division could be different. But I think Minnesota's still going to be pretty good. Detroit's going to be interesting with Jared Goff, but I don't think they'll be that great. And obviously, if Aaron Rodgers is still around, Green Bay is the favorite in that division. And I just don't see them sneaking in as a wild card. They were 8-8 and snuck in last year. It's not going to happen this year. I'm with you with the Washington football team. And it's not because they're terrible. That defense is very, very good. But what quarterback did they bring in this year? Ryan Fitzmagic. And as fun as Ryan Fitzpatrick is to watch quarterback in the NFL, that man has never in his life made it to the postseason. And it will continue here. He will not make the playoffs with Washington, even though that division is terrible. And my number one team that's not going to make it, that made it last year, the Pittsburgh Steelers. They started 11-0 last year and completely fell apart. That offensive line is terrible. The running situation is not good in Pittsburgh, even with Najee Harris going there. Big Ben was definitely showing his age. His mobility is completely gone. There's a lot of turmoil in there. I know Juju did go back, but we will see how that goes. I just don't trust this team. And with Baltimore still being very good, Cleveland continuing to improve, and Cincinnati making some great moves in the offseason, and hopefully Joe Burrow staying healthy all year long. I'm not going to predict it, but there's a good chance Pittsburgh finishes dead last in that division. All right, Robert. How about your three teams that did not make the playoffs last year that will make it this year?
Well, number 3 for me has to be, and I'm hoping Doof's listening, but I'm
now Doof is actually bowling in the Kegler tournament right now, so I know he's definitely not listening.
Good. So he'll hopefully we'll tell him to listen. But I'm going to take his Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, Justin Herbert. That's all you got to say. Justin Herbert. I mean, he looked unbelievable. I think it is going to be a great sophomore year for the guy. I mean, he had 31 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 4,300 yards. I mean,
and he didn't play week 1.
And he didn't play week 1. Yeah. But they
no, excuse me. He played week 1, but he wasn't expecting to play week 1. It was week 1 where Tyrod Taylor got poked.
I thought it was week 2.
Maybe it was.
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, they get Rashawn Slater. Jared Cook's been added to the roster. Austin Eckler is coming back. And that defense, I mean, you got a Bosa on that team. I think it is going to be well-deserved for that team. Next up for me, Arizona. I just like seeing what Kyler Murray is starting to become. I think he is the next guy. Sorry, Seahawk fans, as much as I have drafted Russell Wilson in many leagues, in fantasy leagues over the last few years, he's just lost a step. He doesn't have that team didn't do anything for him in the offseason. Arizona has added down there. I just like to see them get one more big win for Larry Fitzgerald. So, and for me, the number one team and had made a lot of moves is the Miami Dolphins. Yes, Richie, I am saying Miami Dolphins. They have the fifth easiest schedule in the conference and everything. I think they can just make things happen. They've did some work on their line. I'm excited to see what that team does. I think they can be a 12-5 team. I really do. I think
that's wild. That's
yeah,
so good. Yeah, I can't really argue with any of those three. I'm not as big on Arizona as you are. I do think Arizona finishes last in that division, though the NFC West is beyond stacked right now. And I'm not as high on Miami, though the schedule helps, but it's partially because I'm not sold on Tua just yet.
It's a sophomore year.
They can definitely get one of those wild card spots in the AFC East. I think it's between them and New England. Obviously, as a Jets fan, I would love to see them compete, but I think it's going to take a little bit of time for them. But my three teams, one, I agree with you, the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm huge on Justin Herbert. I think he is a top 10 quarterback in the league already, and he's just going to continue to get better. He and Keenan Allen were fantastic last year. Eckler is fantastic out of the backfield, and that defense is just ridiculous. They should have made the playoffs last year if they had coaching that knew how to do a fourth quarter. Their coaching lost them so many games last year. Now they've changed things up. I expected them to take a step forward. We both said Washington's not going to make the playoffs, so somebody in the NFC East has to. And this went back and forth because I do believe the Giants as well are going to take a step forward and be better. But give me the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott coming back. He looked so good the first 4 or 5 weeks before he had that freak injury. Zeke hopefully is just walking around with a football in his hands all offseason so he learns how to not fumble every other run. I think Dallas is set to make a playoff run, mostly because that division's so bad. I don't think they're a top 7 team in the NFC, but with the East being bad, give me the Dallas Cowboys making the playoffs. And for me, the easiest one is the San Francisco 49ers. Super Bowl runners-up 2 years ago. Everybody was injured last year. Now they're all coming back. They made some improvements as well. Yes, they have a quarterback controversy to deal with, but I don't think that's going to be a big deal. Trey Lance will sit on the sidelines and watch Jimmy Garoppolo win some games as he's auditioning for other teams. I don't know if the 49ers will win that division, but they will be by far good enough to be a wild card team, most likely the 5 seed. So give me the 49ers making the playoffs. And those are basically our 6 teams that we think are going to switch from playoff contenders and teams that miss it. Next week we'll have some more fun with something else. I don't know. We always come up with stuff like 2 hours before showtime. So who knows what we'll come up with. But it's fun to still find ways to talk NFL, even though not much is going on right now.
Yeah, so we'll all find that out in June 1st, I guess, when things start shuffling around. I think that's the big date. And
I'm hoping.
To see,
yeah, 1 week.
Yeah, and to see all the OTAs, how many people are not there, who are there, how they're looking. I mean, a few of these guys are putting in some time. I'm excited to see Joe Burrow's throwing the ball and seeing what happens. So
and
excited.
Because it's already 7:30. Goodness gracious! Go ahead and get us with some high school basketball. We're a little late on getting to some local sports.
Yeah, let's talk Bantams, and it's going to be all Bantams here, as the Clarkson Girls have started the season 4-0, and they knocked off both. Well, they had 3 games since our last show. We beat Rodgers 74-15. Held Rodgers on Thursday to 15 points. And then the next night they took for senior night, ended up playing Othello and looked well in that one as they scored that one 66-25. And Ashlyn Wallace just looking so good. 15 points each with her and her sister on Thursday, and then turn around on senior night, drops 24. Just looking unbelievable. And I did have a chance to talk with her on Thursday after the game and to watch her play. And a couple of things she did, she's only before going into the last 2 games, I believe it was last 3 games, she was 160 points from setting the school record for most points in a career. And for her to give up the ball a couple of times that were easy shots, kick out passes to her sister, to JC Hernandez, who had a big week, Maggie Ogden. She's becoming more of a rounded player. I love watching her kick the ball out. And she just looks really, really good. And now last night she throws up 27 against Pullman. Pullman has always struggled. They're doing a little bit better this year, but for her now, you look at that 51 and 66 points in 3 games. She needs 100 points in the next a few games to break the record. So she is just looking phenomenal. The other seniors for senior night, Samantha Chatfield, 8 points, JC Hernandez, 11. The seniors on senior night scored 43 of the 66 points against Othello. And then, like I said, they knocked off Pullman last night, 76-40. They led 60-30 going into the fourth quarter. Maggie Ogden with 12 points. I almost said her sister's name, Erica Pickett, with 11 points. But the conversation being had in the Clarkson scuttle is who is going to stop Clarkson in their division, because nobody has even started or even looked like they're going to slow down that Bantam girls team.
Yeah, not only is the offense fantastic for the Clarkson Bantam girls right now, but that defense, especially those first 2 games, where when you posted those on the R&R Sports Report, where they're like not even giving up 20 points, it's just insane. They're such a good team.
Oh, even against, and Coach Debbie Sabota, we had her on, and we know her coaching style, and she is all about the defense. And for her to have to tell her girls against Othello and against Rodgers was held to 15 points. Othello was held to 25. To pull back, they were running clocks both of those games by the time they got to the third quarter, midway of the third quarter of the one game, in the fourth quarter of the other one. How do you tell that you're already up 40 points? How do you tell these teams to drop back? I mean, she was telling them drop back. They were playing zone and playing very light zone. Just still, when you got Samantha Chatfield in the post, Erica Pickett, Maggie Ogden, all in the post, you got 3 big rebounders right there. So the girls on their way to a perfect season so far, 4-0. Clarkson boys, though, they've had interesting last couple of nights as they did play Othello on Friday. Again, that was senior night, and they came out a little slow, very, very chippy ball game. They were down 12-0 starting that ball game. Mason Van Gyn comes back, hits 2 big threes at the end of the first quarter to cut the lead to 12-9, and then in the second quarter, it turned out to be all Bantams. They were able to finally get some well-deserved defense, but it was very, very physical. 48 total fouls in that ball game. And yes, Randy, I said 48 total fouls in that ball game between Othello and the Othello Huskies and the Clarkson Bantams. It was crazy. But freshman Xavier Santana, we're going to start saying that name a lot lately. Xavier Santana looked really good, along with the senior Wyatt Chatfield, both of them with 12 points apiece. Last night, kind of the same start. The Venoms slow to get things going, and had to fight from behind at one point. As that one was up in Pullman with the restrictions, still wasn't letting people in and out of the place there. It was very interesting start to that game, but put it on the senior Cash hour. Junior Cash was able to hit a big 3 to send it into overtime, where Mr. Conrad Dudley hit some big free throws and then come up with a couple big rebounds to end up moving ahead of the Pullman Greyhounds, and they beat them 56-49 last night in overtime. A little bit of a challenge. It'll be interesting to see how, because that team is a young team, how they move on here in the next couple weeks. But they will be both back in action tomorrow night. I'll be back at work as we host in North Central on Wednesday, and then they'll be on the road on Friday up to Shadle Park.
Yeah, a lot of great basketball action for Clarkson, and both teams off to great starts. So obviously the boys, battling it out a little bit more than the girls right now, but to be a combined 7-0 is fantastic. Let's move on now to the NBA. We don't really talk about this too much because, neither of us are huge NBA fans, but the playoffs are going on right now. Just some score updates. The Nets did beat the Celtics today. They take a 2-0 series lead as they win their game to 130-108. Currently right now, the Lakers, who lost game 1 to the Suns, are up late in the first quarter, 26-17. And starting here very shortly, you'll have game 2 between the Mavericks and the Clippers after the Mavericks were able to win game 1. Robert, I just have to ask you, I don't know if you've been watching a lot of NBA basketball. I watched a little bit when I was in Vegas. The sports books have so many TVs. So sitting there watching some baseball, would look over and watch a little bit of basketball as well. What do you think has been the most interesting matchup here in week 1?
I haven't really watched any of it, but I'm excited to see what Brooklyn can do. A few years ago, nobody said anything about the New Jersey Nets. Nobody. They weren't a team that was that were going to do anything. And when they went through this whole change of ownership, change of logo, change of the dynamics in that area, I think it's brought a whole new meaning to that ball club. And to see him in Brooklyn, I think it's a well deserved, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And Lois says, the Lakers lose bad. I don't see the Lakers moving very well this year.
Oh, they didn't look very good in game 1. We'll see what they're doing here in game 2. Obviously, we're not watching it as we're on the air right now. For me, the most interesting matchup, and you can call me a homer all you want, but it's obviously the game that I watched the most of this weekend. But that game 1 between the Hawks and the Knicks was fantastic. As somebody that's not a big NBA fan anymore, the way the Knicks are run with Tom Thibodeau and their emphasis on the defense shows, and it's really fun basketball. It was a very physical game that was close the whole way through, especially those last 5 minutes were just ridiculous to watch. Shout out to Trae Young of Atlanta as he took over the last few minutes for the Hawks, and it was his mission to quiet that crowd, and he did a fantastic job. Hits the game winner with 0.8 seconds to go, and you knew it was going to be in his hands, and he made just a ridiculous move outside the three-point arc to get a pretty easy layup there. So they don't play again until, I believe, Wednesday. Let me double check. Yeah, they play Wednesday at 4:30. But if game 1 was any indication, that series is just ridiculous. All right, give me real quick. Give me a prediction of a first-round upset.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I think Phoenix, as much as there's been so many people not on Phoenix and the way they've been playing, I think, like I said, I like them making the NBA Finals. I hope they can keep going, but they've got to play a little bit better than what they've been doing.
And it's really funny that you call that an upset when Phoenix is the 2 seed. But it
Well, I
does
do.
feel like that would be an
That's
upset
what it
because
feels like, yeah.
everyone believes the Lakers are going to win that series. So I'm not saying you're wrong by calling that an upset. It's just really interesting how that works. For me, how about Portland? 6 seed over the 3 seed Denver. That was another really good couple of games. They're tied at 1 right now. I think that goes 7. But I think Portland has a decent chance to pull that quote unquote upset there. So we will keep an eye on that. Obviously, the NBA drags out these rounds so long. Again, the Knicks played on Saturday. Was it Saturday or Sunday? It was.
You lost a couple of days.
Sunday.
Yeah, you
I
lost
did.
a couple
Vegas,
of days while you were there.
There wasn't a lot of sleep in Vegas. Let's just say that. I think they played Sunday, but then they don't play again until Wednesday. There's so many days off in between, and there's no travel day there either. I just don't understand it. There was one NBA playoff game yesterday, right? With 8 series going on, they had one game. All right, let's get to the NHL playoffs real quick, as those have gotten a little farther along. Congratulations, REC Boston, Colorado, and Winnipeg, as they have all won their series already. Another game that I watched a bit of was the Winnipeg Jets and the Edmonton Oilers. I watched a bit of Game 3 this weekend while hanging out in a sports book for a little bit. How about the Jets sweeping the Oilers, but in Game 2, they won it in overtime. In Game 3, they also won it in overtime. And then in Game 4, overtime wasn't enough. It took them 3 overtimes to then sweep Edmonton. So the closest sweep in sports history, possibly. Just every game came down to the wire. Right now, you have Pittsburgh up 3-2 on the Islanders. They Las Vegas up 3-2 on Minnesota, and Tampa Bay up 3-2 on Carolina. All 3 of those Game 6s are tomorrow. And your score updates today, Toronto beat Montreal earlier today 4-0. They now lead that series 3-1. And the Predators and Hurricanes currently just past halfway in the 3rd period, all tied at 2, just like that series tied at 2. So a lot going on in hockey. And my question to you, and again, I watched some of it this weekend, but is there anything better than overtime playoff hockey?
Oh, I love the scenario. I mean, it's awesome. But you look at that one, I think, look at how the Predators and Hurricane series is turning out right now. 2 apiece, 2 games each. And, it's just going to be one of those physical matchups. I like that one. I think that one goes the distance on that one. So
I'm excited next year that it gets back on ESPN a bit more, because it's just like I don't have NBC Sports and all of that. They get thrown on all these different channels, and it's just been so hard to watch this year. So I'm excited for them to get a bit more coverage for sure. But yeah, overtime hockey is just so much fun.
How about the IFL there, Randy? And I know we talked a little bit about IFL last week. Spokane Shock. Eric's talking about the 93 finals already.
Already? That's a long time ago now.
Well, I mean,
he's talking about just Jets and Oilers and how close those games were. It's the same there. So what happened with Spokane?
Hey, Spokane ended up picking up the win. They needed it after the way they played the week before. Excited to see it back. I'm looking to try to get into a game. Hopefully the first week of July, it'll be interesting. But the Shock beat Massachusetts 33-26. So
who?
Massachusetts Pirates, the Pirates of Massachusetts.
Yeah, there you go.
So they will be the next game for the Shock will be on the 5th as they travel down to Arizona. So they've got a week off for the holiday weekend. So no game this weekend. Kind of
now afraid to talk. I made fun of you saying something a little incorrect. So now I'm just going to blow everything else that I say. Let's move on to the sports that don't get enough airtime. And let's talk some Aussie rules, even though I don't want to. Hawthorne continues to suck as they lose to Carleton 86-63. Meanwhile, you continue to have picked a fantastic team to follow as Geelong on a roll They defeated Gold Coast 91-57. Some close finishes to talk about, and there were a lot of them this week. How about Adelaide giving Melbourne their first loss in a 96-95 thriller? I watched a lot of that game. Holy crap, that game was close all the way throughout. Fremantle defeats Sydney 86-84. Port Adelaide defeats Collingwood 59-58. And the closest game of the week, Western Bulldogs defeated St. Kilda 144-33. And Eric came in at the right time. Goodness. Just ridiculous what Western has been able to do to the lower tier teams. On TV this week for Aussie Rules on Fox Sports 1 on Sunday at 2:30 a.m. Pacific time. You get Port Adelaide and Fremantle. On Fox Sports 2 Saturday at 2:30 a.m. Pacific time. You get West Coast and Essendon. Saturday at 8 p.m. Pacific time. You get Richmond and Adelaide. I think that's going to be a very fun game to watch. And then maybe not the best game to watch, Saturday at 11:30 p.m. Pacific time. You get St. Kilda and North Melbourne as they are all battling for the wooden spoon with Hawthorn down at the bottom. And Fox Soccer Plus, I always want to say Fox Sports Plus, but Fox Soccer Plus only has one game that's live this week. A lot of replays for them. But Friday at 8:30 p.m. Pacific time, you get Collingwood and your Geelong Cats.
I don't think I'm going to be able to watch it. I think I'm going to be nose into the NAIA, so this week might be a little rough with watching our AFL. But excited. Geelong is playing quite well.
Absolutely. They really, really are. And the season in the AFL is completely heating up now. They're about halfway through the regular season. And the way their playoff tiers work, I just love. So there's a lot to play for throughout the year, trying to be one of the top 4 teams or just getting into the playoffs with the top 8. Or if you're like Hawthorn, just try not to win the wooden spoon. Always something to play for. How about golf? You brought it up at the beginning of the show, but PGA Championships, Phil Mickelson at the age of 50 ends up winning the tournament and also was like the highest odds ever in Vegas to win the PGA Championship. I forget what the odds were for him, but they were ridiculous.
I didn't even have the odds for him because nobody was talking about him. That was just crazy.
I love Joel on Twitter, Joel Damon, tweeting out that he poked the bear because of their sparring session before they got to play a couple weeks ago. And Phil tweeted back at him saying, I apologize for not bringing your name up in my press conference, but yes, you deserve some credit. So that was great. Joel had a very, very good weekend, especially Saturday, where he was 5 under through the front 9, had 6 birdies and 1 bogey. And then the back 9 kind of came back and bit him in the butt. He double bogeyed the 10th. And I want to say he was like 4 or 5 over in the back 9, but was taking care of some fantastic conditions on Saturday. Had a great moment on the 9th hole when he birdied his 3rd straight hole, turned around to the crowd and asked them if they were not entertained, which again, Joel Damon needs to be on a Ryder Cup just for the pure entertainment. I know a lot of the golfers really love him and his attitude, but he does finish +6 as he had a rough Sunday, finished tied for 55th. The favorite, Rory McIlroy, struggled as well, went +5. And I won our matchup as Jordan Spieth battled around even throughout the tournament, finished at +2, tied for 30th, as Dustin Johnson had a rough tournament as he missed the cut.
You look at that course and it played extremely tough against the ocean there.
The wind was insane.
And if you watched on Sunday, which I did a little bit, you watched on they were showing Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. The wind was blowing west to east, and then all of a sudden on Sunday it decides it's going from south, blowing northwest, and so it just totally changed the wind. But 15 and 16 played extremely tough. I think those were the 2 toughest holes on the entire course. I think Joel bogeyed every one of them on 15.
Yeah.
16 played. I think the farthest of that hole was 606 yards. It was just crazy, the distances on some of those yards. But some of those plays that those guys were able to knock the ball down in the wind as close as they were able to get to the hole. Unbelievable tournament.
What do you think of the incident that happened at the 18th after Phil Mickelson put it up on the green and the crowd just completely engulfed the golfers? Poor security had zero chance.
I think it was cool, but that was, what happened to Brooks Koepka? It took Brooks forever to get through the crowd. I mean, how he was sworn, but for a guy like Phil Mickelson to be able to bring that many people into the finals, there must have been maybe 2,000 to 3,000 people on 18.
Social distancing went out the window.
Yeah, there was no such
tournament. And also the highest, it crushed last year's ratings for the PGA Championship. Everyone wanted to tune in to watch Phil, so that was really cool as well. Good on Bruce Koepka. Obviously, that was a very frustrating moment for him. He was not playing that great on Sunday. Had said in an interview afterwards that he's coming off of some knee surgery and coming back from that, and his knee still not 100%. Said he got banged a few times, so it kind of hobbled him while he was trying to finish. So I'm sure that was extremely frustrating, but he seemed to stay classy throughout the whole time there. So just a wild scene to watch, but like you said, with Brooks Koepka, it was very interesting. They now stay in Texas for the Charles Schwab Challenge. Joel Damon will be teeing off at 6:27 a.m. Pacific time as he will start on the 10th tee. We will see how he does down there. Let's get to NASCAR, as they were also in Texas in a weird race. The first ever race at Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. They start the race after some rain. The track was mostly dry, but had some wet spots. And NASCAR had made all of the teams start with their rain tires just to keep it fair. Now, once you can do your warm-up laps, then you can come into the pits, lose your track position, and get on your slick tires, which is what they normally would race on if there was no rain. A lot of teams did that just to have the rain pick back up within 3 or 4 laps and watch all of those teams then run back into the pits to get their rain tires back on. And then the rain just never lets up. The visibility at that track was insane. I've watched a lot of highlights. I didn't get to watch it live because I was down in Vegas, but I've watched a lot of highlights since. There was a crazy wreck involving Martin Truex Jr., where he was involved in something and slowed down on the track, and somebody from far behind him could not see anything and just ran through Truex. So just a wild race in a wild event, a first-time thing. Kind of disappointed with the rain as it killed at lap times. It was really, really tough to watch. And then you get down near the end and you have different teams on different strategies. Chase Elliott's in first, but he's not going to be able to make it if they don't get some caution laps. Kyle Busch is in third. He's not going to be able to make it, so he decides to pit just in case, a caution flag can come out and others have to pit. Then he can move back up. Meanwhile, you have Larson, who looks like he would have won the race if it stayed green, as he was able to make it from that on. So it would have been a really interesting finish, but the rain was just too much, and the standing water got too crazy, so they called it early. Chase Elliott not only wins his 12th career win, but now Hendrick Motorsports tied with Petty Enterprises with 268 wins all time as a team. Just ridiculous numbers, and that's the 800th win for Chevrolet, and just a wild race. Did you get to watch any of this, Robert?
I didn't get to watch any of it, as I was participating in a bowling tournament this weekend. So everybody was watching PGA golf, so we couldn't convince them to put the race on. So
definitely watch highlights, because it was interesting to see. That's for sure. Their next race is another really fun one. The Coca-Cola 600, a staple of the NASCAR season in Charlotte. Any prediction on a winner?
I love what Truex is doing. I mean, Truex is looking good this year. I think he makes a good push on this one.
I'm going to say he's really struggled this year compared to other years, but I really think he can turn it around. Look for Kevin Harvick to get things fixed and get the win this weekend. And just real quick, WWE news. Adnan
Are you
Virk.
shocked?
No. Well, I'm shocked it happened so fast. Adnan Virk, who is mostly known, he was ESPN personality, was also on CBS Sports, has been a big part of the Dan Le Batard show over the years. He became the WWE Raw commentator after WrestleMania, and 6 weeks later, they have parted ways. As you know, he lives in New Jersey, so even though WWE is not moving, they all stay in the Thunderdome. That travel with everything else he's been doing has been rough for him, and quite honestly, I like the dude, and I like watching his content. He just wasn't. They threw him to the Sharks too quick. I think he needed some more practice before he got into that role. He just shouted the whole time and got really annoying. I like Virk, and I don't really blame him for his poor performances, but it was really hard to watch Monday Night Raw with his inexperience showing.
Yeah, especially this week. I mean, he stumbled over himself so many times. It was just like, So my question: who fills that spot? Who do they do? I haven't heard anybody yet. That's the thing.
I don't know if they really need anybody yet. They might bring up. I can't think of that guy's name on NXT, but he's really good. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. No, his name's of course not wanting to pop up. But I really like him. He and Corey Graves do a podcast together. So to get those two on the same broadcast team would be pretty fun.
Right.
So we'll go there. But let's move on to this week in sports history. And Robert, give me like 5.
All right, here we go. 1935, the NFL adopts the annual college draft, and it begins in 1936. 1943, the fastest 9-inning AL baseball night game happens in 89 minutes. The Chicago White Sox.
I would love that.
Yeah, that would be nice to have now. Beat the visiting Washington Senators 1-0. Let's see. The Red Sox set an NL or an AL record by smashing 4 home runs in 6 innings in an 11-0 run win. Oh boy, the San Diego Padres beat the Montreal Expos 11-8 in 21 innings.
Whew.
That's a lot. Pete Rose, we love talking about Pete Rose here. Pete Rose in 1985 scores his 2,108th run and passes Hank Aaron on the NL lead all time. And in 1991, NFL owners agreed to add 2 teams in 1994. So,
all right, now it is time, sir. See if you can stump me again, because it seems like a regular occurrence lately.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll stay. I know you got excited about the fast 9-inning game. What is What is the fastest 9-inning game?
Not a game with the Yankees. That's all I can tell you. I don't know. Would you want time? What are we looking for here?
I would do time. I am thinking time
76 minutes.
No, actually, and the fastest AL time was St. Louis against your Yankees. Wow. 55 minutes. That was on the AL side. And yes, look at that. Eric Watkins is correct. The NL is the lead. 51 minutes. It is New York versus Philadelphia in September 28th of 1919.
Crazy. I don't know how you ever expected me to get that. You were being brutal lately.
It was the fastest time games. I could have went the other trivia question. I know I've got a minute to do it. Most runs scored in an inning by one team, and I didn't even get to that one. And it is 17 and 18, depending on which one that we look at. So
crazy.
Yeah.
All right, that will do it for this edition of the R&R Sports Report. Guys, if you are local, do not forget the NAIA World Series starts this Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You get 4 games from 8:30 in the morning all the way till probably 10 or 11 o'clock at night, depending on how long some of these games go. just name the 2 expansion teams. It's the Jaguars and Panthers, right?
That's
Is that
easy.
the 94?
That is the easiest one. That's why I didn't give it to you.
When you brought that up, that's what I was thinking. But yes, definitely check those out, and good luck to the 10 teams participating. Thank you to Alicia one more time for coming on in her busy schedule and talking to us for about 15-20 minutes.
Congratulations to her too.
Yeah, congratulations on winning the SID award for the Cascade Conference, first female ever to win that award. And we got basketball playoffs going on. We got hockey playoffs going on. Baseball is in full effect. Eric, apologies for your team losing their winning streak today. So the Yankees lost their mini winning streak as well. So that happens. But we will be back next Tuesday with a lot of NAIA World Series recaps with some live scores going on. That'll be fun to do, as well as another jam-packed 2-hour show. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us once again. Don't forget to let all of your friends know about this show as we continue to try to grow and expand and get better and to kind of mess around in the summer. And we're trying different things just to see what sticks for next year. So thank you so much. But again, that's Robert. I'm Randy, and we are out.